Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so if you're a commercial banker, you know that your entire job really comes down to one thing: making smart lending decisions. But how do you do that? I mean, you're lending into a future that doesn't even exist yet. Today, we're going to get into financial projections, the single best tool you have to answer that exact question.
You know, that whole idea of lending into the future, that's really the core challenge of our profession, isn't it? When you get right down to it, it all boils down to one single fundamental question. I mean, really think about that for a second. Every single loan you sign off on is a bet. It's a bet on a future that hasn't happened. You're betting that a company will perform, that they'll grow, and, of course, that they'll be able to pay you back. So, how on earth do you manage that level of uncertainty?
Well, here's the key. This is the big mental shift. Our job isn't to be fortune tellers, it's to be prepared. Yeah, of course, analyzing a company's past performance is absolutely critical. It tells you their story. But we all know the old saying is true. Past success is no guarantee of future results. And that's exactly why we need a different kind of tool. One that helps us prepare for what could happen, not just try to predict what will happen.
And that tool, that's the financial projection. I personally like to think of it as a what-if machine. It's this incredibly powerful way to start mapping out all the different possibilities and really navigate the fog of the future.
So what is a projection, really? Well, at its heart, it's an estimate. It's built on a specific set of assumptions, but the most important words on this slide are what might happen. See, this isn't about landing on one single correct answer. It's about exploring the possibilities.
And right there, that's what makes a projection completely different from a forecast. A forecast is a prediction. It's the company's management team saying, hey, this is what we expect to happen. But a projection, that's a strategic tool for us. It allows us to ask those tough what-if questions. What if sales go up even faster than they think? What if a key supplier jacks up their prices by 15%? Or what if their customers start paying their invoices 10 days slower? We're not trying to lock into one single outcome. We are preparing for many.
Now, with all this power comes a really big warning. Projections are not a replacement for your own critical thinking. It is so easy to get sold on an overly optimistic set of assumptions that just paints a perfect, rosy picture. You have to remember this: a projection is only as good, only as solid as the assumptions it's built on. So if the assumptions are literally everything, how do we build a projection the right way? Well, the good news is the actual process is pretty straightforward. It really just breaks down into 3 clear, logical steps. It all has to start with history. You have to dig in and really understand the story that those past numbers are telling you. Then you take that historical context, you mix it with what you know about the company, the industry, their plans, and you start to form your hypotheses, your what-if assumptions. And then finally, you do the math. You translate those assumptions into dollars and cents and see what kind of future that could create. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. This is where the power of projections truly comes alive. We're going to test our assumptions using something called a sensitivity analysis. And don't let the name intimidate you. It's really just a structured way of firing up that what-if machine we talked about. Let's use a super common scenario. A borrower comes to you and says they're planning for sales to grow by 10% next year. Sounds great, right? More sales, more revenue. But what does that actually mean for the cash in their bank account? And this is the crucial insight. A change in one number, like sales, never ever happens in a vacuum. It creates a ripple effect that touches almost every part of the business. Just think it through. To get more sales, you probably need more inventory on the shelves. And when you make those sales, that creates more accounts receivable. All of that growth, it ties up cash. Now look at how that ripple effect actually plays out with real numbers. That 10% growth in sales, sure, that's an extra $500,000 in revenue. But look what else happens. Their accounts receivable and inventory balances jump up too. And what's the result? You see it right there at the bottom. The company now has a new financing need of over $163,000. That is cash they have to find from somewhere just to support their own success. A projection lets you see that coming long before it becomes a crisis. That kind of analysis is incredibly powerful stuff. So after you've done all this work, what's the real payoff for you, the banker? Well, it all comes down to achieving 3 really clear strategic goals. First, you're no longer stuck with a single guess.
You establish a realistic range of performance, building out best-case and worst-case scenarios. Second, you use the numbers to validate the real risks. The analysis will show you exactly which assumptions have the biggest financial impact, so you know what you need to worry about. And finally, and this is so important, all this data lets you structure smarter loan covenants, conditions that are actually tied to the real drivers of the business. So I'll leave you with this one question to take with you to your very next deal. Look at the company's story, look at their plan, and ask yourself this: what is the one single assumption that, if it proves to be wrong, changes absolutely everything? If you can find that one thing, you've taken the most important step toward preparing for whatever the future might hold. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.